Welcome to the Yang Gang Roundtable. It is 3:02 p.m., Friday, June 26, 2020. We are here with Dr. Quintus Jett. Dr. Jett, thank you for joining us.
Great being here.
So we're a basic income advocacy podcast for anyone who's just joining us. You introduced yourself last time, but you'd like to introduce yourself again for this stream real quick? Because it will be a separate podcast, so some people might not have heard.
Well, actually, I mean, it's okay to mention that. So we just have had this really great conversation, like with Reverend Wendy Hamilton, and so I was a president of Abundance for America, which was one of the super PACs that was Yang oriented. I have a background, 20 years experience as a professor of management of business engineering, but I've also been a professor of public administration. So these issues of social entrepreneurship, issues of public service, and how to organize that is something that I'm very much kind of like have expertise in, as well as I'm on this. There's a national task force called Resilient America. It's out of the National Academy of Sciences, and it's about how to, in our community, to be prepared for disasters. And so in that sense, I mean, that work of resilience is actually pretty salient right now.
Yeah, so one of the things that Faye Doney had brought up is that during our crisis, we're having a lot of trouble with what should we do for the homeless who are no longer able to, like in California, I thought that in California, a lot of cities had actually started attacking it by simply putting them into hotel rooms. But you're reporting that you're in California, in the San Diego area, and they have not dealt with their homeless issue right now in a very, very positive way.
Okay, let me explain my. I've seen it from every angle, man. It's so exciting, but it's also like okay, so I have friends that I met in the women's shelter that I stayed in December, who they got put into homeless shelter, or they got put into hotels, right? If you were going to the women's shelter, but not everyone goes into the women's shelter. I actually just met somebody who sleeps in a tent in the hillside off their parents' property, right? But they're hidden from the view of the road and everything else. So those people, they collect, food and from the city, and they bring it back to their house, right? But there are people who still sleep on the streets, and the drugs are pretty bad here. It's quite disheartening, actually. But like, I offered for somebody to sleep in the back of my truck because I was going to be staying in a hotel with a friend of mine. And my friend actually kicked me out of the hotel room for letting somebody sleep in my truck. I was like, are you kidding me? And then I was just like, okay, well, I'll figure something else out. And then when I tried using the restroom, they wouldn't let me even just wash my hands. That's all I wanted to do was wash my hands. And they're like, no, you can't use it. And I had actually snuck in there earlier and I was able to use the restroom, right? And I was like, well, where do the homeless pee? And they're like, oh, maybe they go to Starbucks. So I was like, okay. So I go there and then it's all closed off because of COVID. I talked to the manager there and, I caused a little ruckus. But overall, they're like, well, go to Denny's. I was like, I was just there, and so I was like getting a little mad. So because of this, more doors are closing. I don't know if they've reopened, but libraries closed. That's where homeless spend most of their time. And then they're I got food from a school. That's where I got the food from. Other, even just parks, some of their bathrooms are closed due to COVID, but that's where most of the homeless people go to pee, right? And I know they're afraid of them doing drugs, but I mean, they're doing drugs because they're not happy with life, right? So but that's my situation of what I've observed and been introduced to just being on the ground level. Yeah.
Well, that's what our podcast is all about. It's about hearing from the ground level, from people who actually living the experiences, and for people who are living in poverty, people, and in your case, you're actually here to represent the homeless for them because you find yourself in the same. You're like, this is a group that I can be part of, and so yeah, that's pretty cool. I think.
I want to actually maybe suggest some context for this. So I want you all to consider that that there's a science and logistics to warfare. Like, we put a lot of money into figuring out how to execute war, killing people, occupying territories. It's very like rigorous and scientific and professional. But what we do not have to that extent is a science of how do we engage in service. I mean, we have a little bit of healthcare, we have elements of that, but just this idea of service. And so in a way, one way at least I look at what we're trying to do in Yang Gang and also other politics is we're trying to figure out, a lot of nonprofit world, is how can we be better at the logistics of serving our each other in a charitable way. So Faye, when you mentioned homelessness, I was teaching at Rutgers University in Newark, New Jersey, and I was teaching social entrepreneurship. And one example that came up is the public safety officer came and noted to me that she was, there's like about 10 homeless shelters within several blocks of campus. I was like, what? 10? What? And she's like, well, no, but that's everything. Some of them are formal, some of them are informal, like places where people go, and each one of them is very different. So it's like sometimes there'd be a certain a shelter that was only for single, like women with children. That was it, And so you might imagine you might have homeless shelters for different kinds of needs. And so one of the biggest challenges with homelessness is we have one label on it, homelessness, but really that's just a condition. There are a lot of different people come to it or into it in various ways, and their needs are different. And so I think that's what I think I see in the bigger picture we're all trying to do, that and our existing politics is not good at it. And so I think what's been really great, I think with Andrew Yang and the Yang Gang is like, it's humanity first. We're being very intentional about how can we put each other first and for our fellow Americans and our fellow human beings.
So I think that we should also push on the corporations to help out. Like you were saying, people were expecting that that Starbucks would just allow you to use the bathroom, or Denny's would allow you to use the bathroom. But right now they're not doing that. But I know that that Walmart, for example, in my town and possibly nationwide, has put out a statement that if you need a place to sleep for the night, that it would be okay for you to park your car in their parking lot and sleep there, and that they would provide a safe haven. They would not call the police on you to send you away. And so I think that's like stuff like that, I think needs a push to the corporate headquarters to basically put out, a statement that this is something that we would like as a corporation to take on, maybe, but I don't think they could provide showers. Unfortunately, they don't have showers in these bathrooms. So that's another issue that's going to need more consideration.
Well, okay. So let me talk on. So some businesses, like in the Northwest, called Winco, I had not even 5-10 minutes, and security was pushing me away, right? And Walmart, some of them still have signs that say you can't stay here overnight. But most parking lots have those signs. Like, I mean, okay, I didn't just get kicked out of a hotel and 2 bathrooms. Okay. I also got kicked out of a parking spot. Oh, I was irate. Okay. This is just a couple days ago. So it's still okay. I'm okay. But like, this woman comes out of this hotel and she's just like, you need to move your truck. And I was like, are you happy with the work that you're doing? I was just trying to help someone sleep in my car. That's literally all I was trying to do. And I had been kicked out of 4 different things, and I'm okay. But like, that's
I hear when I see your face, I see a smile, and I hear like sort of a happy tone while you're telling me something that sounds absolutely devastating. I would be devastated to be kicked out of 4 different places for various, non.
This is every day, though. This is every day for some of these people, it's just like, how do you expect someone who has mental issues, who maybe doesn't have as much like free bandwidth,
the saying,
okay.
No good
some
deed
people
goes
don't have enough
unpunished, right?
bandwidth to even hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
well,
I thought you were done. There
okay,
was a break
I was
in
about. Oh, my phone was dying. That's all. No, I mean, okay, I'm gonna admit something I'm not exactly proud of. I was ready to piss in their parking lot in public to prove a point that we need to have bathrooms for like homeless people. I was ready to go to jail.
I'm glad you did
I
not
was
do
100%
that.
ready. I'm glad I didn't.
That was the wrong move. Yeah.
But I'm like humanity first.
Okay,
right?
maybe.
But
I don't know.
Okay, I want to say at some point I had told my young child, my first son, who was when he was in kindergarten, I had told him that if the teacher told him he was not allowed to go pee, he was to go ahead and if he wanted to just go ahead and pee right on the floor in the classroom, do it, and your mom would support you. That's how I was with my first child. My
I understand the ethical case. I understand the logistical case, but I think you don't want to get on a list. Right? That's kind of the end of the day. It's not worth it.
Actually, this reminds me though that one thing that I think that one of Andrew's appeal that maybe like we could pick up on is like when you have this basic universal basic income, what would always come up sometimes, people I was introducing the Yang, they'd be like, okay, $1,000 a month, then what? Like, then what? But then it's like what you can do is this is really an entrepreneurial and collaborative opportunity. Because if everyone is getting $1,000 a month, including people who are homeless, all of a sudden, as a social entrepreneur, I could maybe create a business model for that. It's like, oh, can I take $200 a month of your $1,000 and provide showers and these other services, and then I can go to like 10 of my friends and get like, or can I get $100 a month from the 10 of you for the next 5-6 months so I have investment capital? So I think there is, and I think Andrew, because he's an entrepreneur, it's like this idea that we're going to take this investment in ourselves, this dividend, and we can be entrepreneurial, but we can work with our friends and as investors, as suppliers, and in order to basically support each other. Because a corporation is not going to do that. I mean, a job of a large corporation is to get rid of jobs. That's what it does, is to be more efficient. And corporations, and I've taught in the business school, so I know, something happened in the past 60 years or so where in the most classic sense, when you create all this profit, it goes to different places. The profit can go to the owners, yes, in making cheaper products and more effective products for people, but also was supposed to go to employees as well. But for some reason, if you try to do something innovative, and you're going to make a big investment in your employees, people think you're a communist. And I'm like, what happened? What happened to the human?
Yeah, I love that. I love that solution because I've gone traveling in Europe and I've noticed that they have a lot of public restrooms in other countries, including, I think in Taiwan also. There's public restrooms that are not staffed, but they are automated. And so this automation can help move things also if there's a little entrepreneurship behind it and automation that the bathrooms literally clean themselves and you do pay something to go into the bathroom, but a small amount of money can get you into that bathroom and take care of that human need, and so it's really interesting that it is, that can be viable if only people had the money. If the homeless people had enough change in their hands to go get into that bathroom, that would be one possibility. But right now it's like we just expect church to do it or some private corporation to just be like, oh, well, we'll just handle that for you, or what part of government is responsible for that? We don't even know. So
UBI restores communities. It creates a community capable of taking care of itself. That means if the community just needs bathrooms and no one's taking care of it, hey, like you said, there are 100 of us. We'll get $1,000 a month. We'll put in $100 or something, And hey, look, we got just bathrooms. A store goes up. It's like just bathrooms. That's all it is. How mysterious. I don't know.
But like they actually had something that looked like a McBathroom type of thing. It was a franchise bathroom in Europe that I saw.
But UBI makes that possible, and it's not. It makes entrepreneurship possible, but it also makes philanthropy possible. You don't have to make any money with that. It's just there for the community, and it's nothing else can replace UBI for that.
Is there a way? I'm going to be a little bit controversial, a little bit. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So I first got involved in presidential campaigns like when Howard Dean ran. And the
infamous scream.
We used to have these things like every year there was like a reunion of Dean supporters. It was called Democracy Fest. And I think the second, third year that we had it, we were all gathering, having a discussion. And one person got up and said, as we're talking about the future and policy, one person's like, where's the anti-capitalist platform? And everybody there, all ages of the former Dean people, they looked at them and like, what are you talking about? You know? And so I think there is this sort of issue that I think that Andrew's kind of getting to as well. It's like, it was human-centered capitalism. In some ways, Yang, I think, represents capitalism's very last chance to reform itself. It's its last chance, you know? If we have a way that's less divisive, that's able to deal with some of these inequities, and if capitalism, this is the last chance for capitalism to be able to do that, because if it doesn't do that, everyone's just going to say,
"You are right."
Right.
People are already there.
So last night I was part of the Midwest Slack call, and one thing they mentioned was that it seems to be that they're going to pivot away from the slogan "human-centered capitalism" and replace it with "human-centered economy." Just curious how that fits with your thinking and understanding, and is that a more viable slogan?
No, what I like about it is because again, I've been a professor of business and of public administration, and so that's when I've sort of noticed it's really scary. We have so many business schools. We have a lot of business schools in the past 40, 50 years. We have very few schools of public administration. Like, how do you run governmental things and public service? And we hardly have any schools of nonprofit. So in a way, we've been trapped as an American society. Everything is either the government does everything, or or the free market, or the free markets. Like, it's these even though we have this huge third sector that's come up in between, and we have a community level. So I mean, in that sense, I do like the idea of human-centered economy, because whether you're a government, a nonprofit, or public, or a business, you have to deal with economics. Everyone has to deal with economics, no matter what kind of organization you are. I kind of believe that when it comes to, let's say, delivering any service like food or whatever, I personally don't care what it is, whether a government's doing it, a business is doing it, or a nonprofit. I don't care. I just care about, is it done well? Is it being effective?
But if we move towards that Star Trek economy, right? Wouldn't that be really cool if that third sector, the nonprofit, became the entire economy and there was no more of this other two? That would be kind of like, I think, what the idea of the Star Trek economy is that we don't use money for those for that scorekeeping anymore. We do things because we love to.
I mean, I think in teaching, social entrepreneurship, there was always like three things that you were really valuing, like sort of the effectiveness of something. And then even before efficiency, we want to be able to do it well, whatever well means, right? So if people are hungry, how do we feed them? Okay, once we figure out how to feed them effectively, then we want to be more efficient at doing it. So with less resources, how can we do it more? And then the third is getting from just sustainability and efficiency to issues of scale. So once we learn how to do it, we can do it at large scale. That's an advantage that China has over, I think, us when it comes to social entrepreneurship. Because when I remember visiting there, talking to some social entrepreneurs, and maybe it's because, China is a huge country, lots of people, and it has big problems. So whenever you talk, when the people I talk to there, it's like, whenever they mentioned like any of the problems we were talking about, either homelessness, education, they come in the beginning thinking, we have to solve this big. We need to deal with homeless. We need to deal with millions of homeless. We need to deal with hundreds of millions of children in the rural areas being educated. So they know from the very beginning that they need to entrepreneur something that's going to be of high scale. Fortunately, we do know how to do that better. And I think in certain ways, in the United States, with the tech companies, we know how to scale stuff. But it's like we just don't have enough yet of a commitment to doing that for the social good things.
I love how you mentioned like the scale of things, because there's constantly this, when I try to tell people about things that are being done in Taiwan, which is a very, very small island compared to China that has just massive, so many people. There's constantly a pushback in the United States. Oh, well, you can't replicate that here because we're too big and we can't, do all these things. And I'm like, but why can't we? Why not? I'm not getting that.
Just say anything.
Yeah, I mean, actually, throughout the whole Yang, like that, this like the year, I mean, that was always what was going on in the back of my mind, right? Because, I mean, there's always a logistic to these things. It was pretty clear, even this time last summer, that that however that the primary was going to be, it was pretty much going to be resolved by mid-March. If you looked at like which states and how many delegates are decided, you could predict that. I mean, and actually, I remember telling it and on calls, like pretty much by mid-March, it's going to be like most of the contours of the competition will be over. So whenever someone in Yang Gang would be like, "Wow, I can't wait to see how we're doing in May," I'm like, it'll be over by then, and it was. It was pretty much over by like pretty much it's like the week after. After Super Tuesday, most of it was pretty much done. So that was like March 3rd. It was, and by March 15, it was done. So scale's important.
One of the things that Dr. Jett is really good at doing, besides if you guys saw the Yang treasure maps back in the day, that's when that came from Dr. Jett. But also, some of those strategies and stuff about what districts we should try to go for, But one of the best things that I like is that he keeps his ear to the ground, and he's really listening to as many Yang Gang as he can possibly find that are really active. And so he can hear from the stories of how things are happening all across the country by the people who are actually there and doing the work. And so that's something that I wish the campaign had incorporated more of, was that listening component.
Yeah, Dr. Jett, you were involved with the Fred the Felon's wrapping that semi too, weren't you?
Well, sort of in the beginning,
Yeah.
But I wasn't like actively in it. But I mean, I knew Fred then, and so I was pretty excited like to be in touch with him, as that it was developing, because I thought that was brilliant to have that. Like again, because it's something on the ground, I think I'll actually say though, my first contact with the campaign was like maybe in March of last year in 2019. And so I was talking with some of the HQ, and it was coinciding with a visit I was taking to Los Angeles, like where I was originally from. And I remember I asked Nick, I'm like, can you connect me with Yang Gang leaders? Because I mean, I could see certain things from a distance from base camp. It's like, okay, this skews mostly millennial and mostly male, but still, like, what's it really like? And so that was pretty nice. Like Nick made the connection. And so my first real experience with Yang Gang was really speaking with several Yang Gang leaders, like in Los Angeles. And when I mean see them, that means like I would meet them in person, and I would have these like there's the guy who started the UCLA Yang Gang. He and I were just like, we just met in a coffee shop, and we start walking around campus. We talked for like 2 hours. And it was great, but because again, it's like, I think we are a community, and there's and we all, we're very diverse in certain ways, but it's like coming back to the roots of what attracts us to this campaign and to this person, and how do we begin to work together? I mean, that's something it's been pretty much a lot of my life the past year and a half.
I just had an idea. Like sometimes people like to label corporations as like the boogeymen. They're the reason why, people have low pay and like things suck, and why we're seeing so much strife. But then why don't we incentivize corporations to take care of these people who are down and out? Because we kind of like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel bad when I see that person on the side of the road, or that person like pushing a shopping cart and all of these things. But if we say like, hey, if you corporations can find some kind of way to help these situations, then we'll put your name in like some kind of spotlight or talk about it. Because if they have all this money and they have all this power, they should take a lot of this social responsibility on, and that should be incentivized them to just make that a part of their structure.
Like in theory, that's accomplished through taxation, right? They have all this power. They're big entities. They garner a lot of the benefits of society, so they're taxed, and then the taxes go to support people who can't. But I hear what you're saying. I think it would be hard to make that align with the profit motive. You know, there are some things I just think the profit motive doesn't handle well, which is one of the reasons we need a UBI.
I think we can put it into the profit motive to say that we will patron socially conscious corporations more than than just regular ones, and we don't just say that and then they show us some kind of ad campaign, but we have, like, people have to see it in the local level, like in their actual community. So when a homeless person is being told, like, you can't use the restroom here and stuff like that, we'll be like, well, are they gonna go in my backyard? Like, is that really what I want? It's so it's like, why don't you let them use it here so they don't go in, like, my backyard? Because you can't externalize these problems to, like, other people. Or if you got so much money and resources from the community, you have the means to take care of this problem.
One thing that hit me is that there is a lot of, like, thinking about that, like, social entrepreneurship and social responsible business, but I'll bring this back to Andrew Yang. When you really think about it, so much of what we think to do politically is top down. Either we're like, it's always like trickle down, like, we always gotta cut taxes and so people can have money, or we take all this money and give it to a government. And what's very intellectually appealing to me is that with a freedom dividend, for once, just give everyone the money and let us collaborate, entrepreneur, and work it out for themselves. When I look at what's been happening with this pandemic, there's a part of me that's like, if we had taken, like, at least 2 million of that trillion of that dollars and just given the freedom dividend to everyone, didn't mean to test it, I think we would have figured it out.
Agreed, 100%.
Dr. Jett, did you know that our podcast is trying to create a super PAC also?
I thought maybe we can get some advice from you, since you are an expert.
Yeah, next time, or offline, let's talk about that.
Cool, right on. Yeah, I hit you up.
Maybe Jeremy could tell us a little bit about it for us, and sort of, is there anything that you'd like to tell us about it?
I have to jump off, but
okay.
But yeah, I'd love to talk about this again, and it's been great meeting you all. Like,
likewise.
And we should say goodbye now to Dr. Jett. It was really nice of you to show up.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, well, take care.
Okay.
Hey, yeah, great to meet you. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.